Thanks for checking out the Ideal Impact Podcast, where we discuss 5 key skills and the impact they can have on your life, as well as some major issues in society. You ready to get after it?
Are you doing it? Am I doing
I
it?
wasn't going to. I can.
We're live. I did it. I didn't do it yet last week because it was just me. But since you're here, I decided we should do it.
I love it.
So
You do it better than Randy too.
Do I? Do I sound better? It's not hard. He sounds like crap.
I mean, he's kind of a tool, so he always sounds bad.
He's a huge tool. He's a
We
huge
we miss you, dude. We miss you.
Yeah, Randy has COVID.
God.
Did he not wear his mask? Is that why?
Yeah, we were rule breakers and we didn't wear a mask.
Didn't wear a mask. He doesn't have the 14th and 15th booster shot.
Yeah. Apparently Disney lifted that, so we should have taken our own precautions. It's our own fault.
Yeah, they lifted that because DeSantis threatened to kick them out of the state of Florida.
Well, then he also started taxing them, which they were not done before. So
yeah, I get that. I don't know. That situation's wild that we have politicians feuding with theme parks over social issues. Would you consider that I don't know. I don't know what the right term is there, but you get it.
A worldly issue.
Yeah, worldly issue, a health issue. I guess really, when you think about it, that's ultimately what it was, that we turned into a societal political issue, which is always fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way to make money. Focus on one thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, that's a good way to put it. But anyway, before we get into all that, so I kind of reframed some things. I'm going to take my gum out so I'm not chewing like a cow in the microphone. But we talked about this a little bit before we jumped on the call, and I'm kind of changing like a way that I do affirmations. It's almost kind of like affirmations. It's kind of almost like, celebrating your wins. But what I started thinking about was that we always put everything into this negative context. Oh, what did I do wrong? And I think when we get into this mindset of personal growth, it's easy to analyze everything that we do. We start thinking about, oh, should I have done that? Should I have said that? What could I have done better? And we try to train our minds to think positively, because as human beings, we often think negatively. So I was wording this and I'm playing around with it. I'm like, what did we do right? Like, what did I do right yesterday, instead of what are my wins? And it's almost the same thing, right? But I started thinking about that and I wanted to put it out there. So Brian, it's only Tuesday. So what have you done right in the first, we'll say, day and a half, day and 3/4 of the week?
Well, to be honest with you, we got a really late start on Monday. We had a late flight. We got in late, but after being on vacation, it was easy to get out of habit, not getting in that morning movement, not getting in the evening movement. Granted, we were walking an amusement park and we did a lot of that stuff, but coming back on Monday, I got right back on the horse. I started watching the diet again. I started, with my morning movement after I dropped my kids off. It wasn't the same routine, but I made it work. So that, to me, that was something I did right. It wasn't what I was used to for the past couple months or whatever, but nonetheless, I accomplished what I wanted to. And it's not easy for people to get off track and then immediately get back on track. So I was actually proud of myself for that, and I gave myself some credit, which, building yourself up every now and again is a good thing, because it does create that positive thought process in which you were talking about earlier. So the last couple of days back on, my normal schedule of eating healthy and the workouts and stuff like that. I had a business meeting this evening. However, when we're done here, I'll get over to the gym and get my evening workout in. So still on track.
Good for you, man. That's something that I can't do. Like evening workout. I mean, I shouldn't say I can't. I don't like doing evening workouts because I always have a super hard time sleeping if I do anything like, exert myself physically at night. Do you find
Sure.
that, or do you just go right to bed like it was nothing?
It's weird. Some days it's no problem, and other days, yeah, I struggle with it, and I really don't know why. I don't know if it's, just having so much on the mind sometimes and not being able to kind of decompress, but that's where a lot of your self-discipline comes in. Like, that you want to, you take that time, take that extra deep breath, let that stuff go, and try and focus on, that rest.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, I've struggled with sleep in the past. Like recently, it's been pretty good, but man, there was such a long time. Like you were saying, my mind races, and that's why it's not just sleep; it's just rest and relaxation in general. My
For sure.
mind is constantly working. I described it to somebody as the lotto machine with all the ping pong balls and all those thoughts and ideas. Basically, the ping pong balls would be thoughts and ideas bouncing around like crazy, and there's like 60 of them going on at the same time.
Sure.
And now practicing like stillness or meditation, it definitely helps me fall asleep faster because I'm very intentional about clearing those thoughts out. And there was even, I used to do this was when I would wake up in the middle of the night, my mind would immediately race. So I started just journaling. I would write down whatever I was thinking, I would write down, and then I could just kind of let it go. So just some
Sure.
advice for people who struggle with that, because I feel that that's common for just so many people, and especially when you have kids going on and just life is crazy, it's so easy to get caught up in that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I don't want to call it a vicious circle,
Yeah.
but it is easy to have that day in and day out.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
what about you, man? What did you do right this last day, 2 days?
So what's been pretty awesome, so I shared this the other week, so this is like a time management thing, but what I've done recently was restructured things. So I was going crazy because we would record a podcast, and then I would have a coaching call, and then I would have to edit the podcast, and this was all going on simultaneously, and I'm trying to put out content because we got to do that in order to grow the following of the podcast and get more people on the coaching. It's just this like endless cycle of context switching. So,
Mhm.
this week for me is a coaching week, and knowing that ahead of time. So anyway, so let me explain that a little bit more clearly. This week's the coaching week. Next week is a creative week. The following week is a coaching week. So I do all my coaching calls this week so I can be very intentional and focused and present for those coaching calls, because I don't have to worry about editing a podcast and doing all that stuff. So it was awesome that I've done this because I was able to put all my coaching calls yesterday, today, and tomorrow morning. So that way, tomorrow afternoon, I can pick up the U-Haul trailer. We can get that packed up. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're driving home to Cleveland. And then next week, I only have some podcast recordings and some editing to do on my work schedule. So I can, get us moved in, settled into the house and everything like that. So the way that I've structured my time is definitely something that I've done right lately. And it's also given me the space to be creative on that week with the podcast. Like, hey, what do I need to do from a marketing perspective? I can think this week, and I don't have to worry about being on calls all day today and then having to do this tomorrow. So it's caused a lot less context switching for me, which is really, I feel, allowed me to be much more effective and efficient, more so than I was when I was bouncing between each and everything, left and right. And then one more thing that I'll share is I took this from my coach, Aaron Belke. So he's my coach that's helping me with entrepreneurship and personal growth, all of that. And he had told me, I don't know, a couple months ago, probably now, about a month and a half ago, to stop worrying about making money. So at that point in time, I was getting distracted by like, all right, what should I do from an investing perspective? Should I get this ice vending machine? Should I buy more real estate? And it was, and my thought process was like, I got to make money now so I can just through those channels so I could just focus on Ideal, knowing that it's going to take a lot longer for us to start, seeing true growth from that perspective.
Sure.
And he was like, dude, he's like, stop worrying about all of that passive investing and focus on your active income. And he's like, you do that by just living your purpose. He's like, if your purpose is to be, somebody who helps other people get more disciplined and consistent and start seeing those results, he's like, just focus on being really good at that. And then the rest will take care of itself. So ever since then, much less stress I've felt because I trust the process. He's done this many times. And I've just been focused on adding as much value to people as I possibly can within a conversation. And now I'm starting to see the results of that. So I was doing that, giving away free coaching calls, which I love doing. It's awesome. And it's so cool because I'm like, how can I just add as much freaking value to this person's life and this person's life in 1 hour? And since I've been doing that, the rest has started taking itself. I'm getting more people that are signing up for calls, more people that are signing up for the coaching, more people that are seeing progress from the coaching again. And I think a lot of that is because now I'm very focused when I'm in my coaching calls because I know that's what I'm doing pretty much all day those days. So it's just been a lot of kind of long steps that I'm taking that are falling into place.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot. But I'm also excited to get back home. So really stoked to get back home. And we have our first ruck event Sunday, August 6th, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're doing a ruck march of 10 miles when we're encouraging people to bring a ruck, put some weight in it. And we're going to go for a 10-mile hike. And then we're going to have some great conversations while we're out on it and hopefully raise some money for Exodus Cry, which is a anti-human trafficking campaign. So they fight human trafficking, and eventually,
Awesome.
So this is basically our test, right? And then we have one. What did Randy? He's November Veterans Day, right?
Yeah, Veterans Day. Yep.
Yeah. So I guess we're putting it out there.
That's still in the works. We're trying to finalize that, but yes, that
Yeah,
is ultimately the goal.
Yeah, that's the plan, and we'll let Randy talk more about that because that was really his brainchild. But I think it's going to be great, and ultimately what we want to do is give a very, very large percentage of the profits back to charity. We're going to look for a charity to partner up with that supports veterans and potentially some local families in need as well. And I think, Brian, we might as well talk about it now. We'll have to look into doing like a 501(c) and maybe starting a foundation of our own, because I think that's something that we want to do anyway. So why not do it sooner rather than later, right?
I would agree. I think it's we have the ability to help others that were either in our shoes or very similar shoes. And to me, obviously veterans and homelessness is through the roof, and it's been an issue for a really long time. And I think that if we can all brainstorm, maybe we can do something there to help either put together a fund to help people get on their feet or take donations of furniture and things like that would furnish places for these folks. I think that would be awesome. I think that that's something we really need to invest some thought and time into.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we were going to go there, like I said, eventually anyway, but I think it just makes sense with this direction that we're taking. So I don't know, we've talked about it. I think we talked about it with Lena for sure about doing some youth camps, and we've kind of changed we do want to do those things, and we're going to do that at some point, but we talked about what we all want. Like, we had this conversation, Brian, Randy, and I, and Brian was working. So it was mostly Randy and I going back and forth, like usual. Randy's a teacher, so he's a complete degenerate in the summer, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I just talk on my phone all day. But we were having like a disagreement. And I think it's important that when you're out there and you're starting, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your company. You can do this in a W-2 job, but you should have disagreements. Like, don't avoid conflict, because conflict brings great results. So Randy and I weren't seeing eye to eye. I'm like, dude, we're doing this youth camp. He's like, that wasn't really my idea. I would much rather do this ruck events, like to raise money for charity and all this stuff. I think it's a good idea. And in the my immediate response was, well, that's not my idea. Like, I don't like it. And it wasn't even so much that I didn't like it. It was new, and I'm already like, we're taking on too much. We're going in too many different directions. We need to figure this out. And first of all, don't have those conversations through text message, because it's easy to misinterpret tone. But Randy and I got on the phone and we got it all hammered out. And after really thinking about it, I'm like, dude, this is actually a great direction to take this. Like, we can raise a substantial amount of money for charitable giving. We can help promote the podcast, promote the brand, everything like that through the Ruck March events. Like, it's all tied together. Plus, we actually love going out there and doing dumb, physical stuff. What better than a Ruck March, that goes along with the military theme and all of that. And I'm like, no, wait a second. Like, if I just take a step back and actually listen to Randy, then this makes a lot of sense for everything we're doing. But in order to do that, you have to embrace the conflict and really like hammer those things away. And it's not always going to be easy. But if you embrace that type of environment, in the workplace, regardless, W-2 job, whatever, then you'll typically come to the best solution and not the solution that you came up with, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that, nobody, like you said, nobody likes to have a difficult conversation. A lot of people are non-confrontational, and they'll just go along to get along versus speaking their piece and potentially adding value to a situation. I think that it is awesome that, and reading through those 100+ messages to catch up was interesting. But I think it was awesome that you two, did get on the phone and you did have that very important conversation to find some common ground and really build something that, I think, even more importantly than being able to raise some money and, doing the Ruck March. But and I know we hate the word motivation, but through this, we're going to motivate, hopefully, a lot of people into the ideas of ideal, becoming more disciplined. Now that they did that with us, they've found, hey, I completed this. I did this on my own. I can do this without, necessarily having to do it in a group environment. I can do this every day. So the conversation in which you guys had, which was probably not the easiest to have, wound up being something that essentially could help even more folks that are paying attention to us. So having those difficult conversations, although it may not be easy, I think it's imperative. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We're having these conversations to, provoke people into trying these new things and really having that self-growth and development. I would say it's a big part for some people. You got to speak your piece, man. Everybody's doing that today. Look at society. Everybody has their opinion. Yes. There are a lot of people that don't want to comment on that opinion, but their opinion does matter. And if they had those conversations, maybe, just maybe, people would start seeing more eye to eye. If you don't know where somebody's coming from and you that person remains quiet, you'll never know how they truly feel about something. You may be offending them.
Yeah.
And if they have that conversation, maybe now the other person may not offend so much and the other person grows a little bit thicker skin. And now we've made progress. Now we can actually have those conversations more easily and continue growing and having more progress day in and day out.
Yeah. Dude, that was very well said. Like, the progress piece, and the biggest thing is like having those conversations. What you reminded me of there was, what I realized about myself is when I'm getting angry, it's typically because I'm not understanding something and I'm getting confused, or I feel stupid because I don't understand it. And like you said, if you just have that, yes, 100%. And it's frustration typically with myself that I'm taking out on the person that I'm speaking with. And what you're saying, basically is have that conversation and discussion, especially when you don't agree, because you're going to gain understanding, hopefully, right? And as long as everybody's communicating effectively. but you can gain understanding, and you can probably come to some common ground like you talked about. But that's the problem right now that you had also mentioned, is we don't have conversations. We attack people because it's easy to do sitting behind that keyboard. It's like, if we would just have conversations, like actual grown-up conversations, left and right, liberal, Republican, whatever, then maybe we could actually remember that we're actually just human beings trying to make the world a little bit of a better place. Most people, I believe that most people want to do that. They might not always take action on it because they don't want to get into their discomfort zone, but it's such a lacking art right now to be able to have a conversation with somebody that you don't agree with and make it productive.
Sure. I think it's also, it would be, emotional intelligence is going to be a huge portion of that conversation. In the beginning, for a lot of folks, it's going to be that natural reaction to attack. You don't agree with what they're saying, so immediately you're going to get defensive and try and speak your piece. You're going to learn, you're going to grow in that emotional IQ of sitting back, listening, absorbing, trying to comprehend what they're saying, with an open mind, and then calmly returning fire, if you will.
That's probably not the best term for it.
It's not, but that's what I mean. In the beginning, it would probably very much like that. You know, and as time progresses and you have more of those conversations and you start to read people and how they react to, your side of things, it will probably start to make you more sympathetic or empathetic to somebody else's views, therefore creating that ability to now understand, maybe not always agree,
right,
but understand where they're coming from, and then being able to continue that conversation like an adult without attacking people, without, all of the very harmful things that take place in a lot of day-to-day lives for people. I don't know how many times you see it. I see it at work where one person has one particular view, the other person has a completely different view, and next thing you know, they're mother effing each other and walking away because they made no progress. Emotional IQ is also a huge part in that, I believe, and I think that would make it would be a lot of growth for folks.
Dude, yes, emotional. That's a good way to put to summarize some emotional intelligence and explain how you can use it in everyday conversation. And I mean, I have 3 things that I try to do when I'm having a difficult conversation with somebody to make it productive. I approach it with ownership. So if I go into this and we're having a disagreement, there's probably something that I did wrong. Like there was a slight disagreement with a friend of mine, and it was through text message, and which again is not always the best thing to do, but I approached it, with what I did wrong. Hey, I could have worded this way better. I could have asked you, were you looking for feedback and advice, or were you just looking to vent? Because maybe, the big thing was I was giving advice when they were just trying to vent. I didn't know that, but that's on me for not asking. And so it's, take or have an ownership first approach, add value. So again, I know this is a difficult conversation, but how can I add value to this conversation in order to approach it with that mindset? Because if you're trying to add value, well, you're not going to go into it and lack emotional intelligence and be an asshole and be condescending and all those things. And then the last thing was listen to understand. Like, instead of listening to respond, and like everybody's heard these things before, right? But listen to understand. So when you have those thoughts, sometimes when I'm having one of those difficult conversations, I'll literally write things down so I remember those, but then I can go right back to listening. So I'm not just, listening so I can just address the next thing and interrupting. And if you do those things, typically that conversation is going to go a lot better.
Sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Speaking of conversations and whether we agree on things or not. We talked prior to the podcast about, current events, what we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something we don't necessarily agree on, and
Okay.
kind of show folks how we can do this intelligently.
Okay.
What's one of the things right now in the world that you just absolutely despise or you think is great? Just throw something out there and we'll see if we have a difference of opinion.
Oh man. I don't, that's a tough conversation, or that's a tough question, Brian. So I believe that one of the best ways to reduce the number of mass shootings that we're seeing in society today would be to re-implement a vastly improved upon mental health institute, platform across the country. So, the reason that I feel this way is when mental health institutions existed, and they were terrible places, like I wouldn't want them to be the same that they were. And people
Sure.
that had those issues in their lives had somewhere to go. Like I would envision it to be a much, like, hey, we're actually going to treat these people, we're going to give them a community to live in. But you see people, like, I go to downtown Austin here in Texas, and there's people screaming at themselves, they're sleeping in their own piss on the sidewalk. It's like, is this better than putting them in somewhere where we can, get them some care? I don't think so. And if you look at the statistics, once the mental health institutes were shut down in 1981, I believe, I think it was Ronald Reagan that did that, violent crime skyrocketed. It makes sense. These people cannot fit into a productive role within society, so violence is bound to occur. Well, then on top of that, like, you put they're in cities typically, like that's where homeless populations are higher. It's just a fact, that have very liberal governments, and they have these super strict gun laws, yet somehow criminals continue to get guns and continue to commit, violent acts. So anyway, so that's one thing that I think we could do to help reduce gun violence while protecting the rights of citizens.
I don't think this is a good topic because we agree on that. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of pushback from one another. I think that you're absolutely right. However,
do you want to just make something up? Because I think if most of the things we're going to put out there, we're going to agree on. I can't think of anything that we wouldn't agree on. What's something? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, but not to get off that piece real fast.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but the problem with that, in my opinion, would be if you're trying to sell a firearm to somebody, they have a questionnaire, right?
Mm-hmm.
You fill out the form and you go to the gun store, you fill it out.
Yeah, in the state of Ohio, I'm sure it's different in other states, but
I'm sure it is. But you can't encroach on somebody's medical history. That's a HIPAA violation, so I don't know that it'll ever really come to that unless serious changes and constitutional rights and things like that changed. Now, granted, there are things in the world today that they're trying to change constitutional rights on.
Yeah.
That I don't necessarily agree with. But at the end of the day, I agree with you 100%. There should be something done, but I think it would be a really, really big uphill battle to make that happen.
Oh, it would be a huge uphill battle. I mean, first of all, we would have to stop sending hundreds of billions of dollars overseas for shit that none of the taxpayers want us to be, or I should say virtually none of the taxpayers want us to be doing. And that's my thing is, I hate taxes. Like, it sucks. The government freaking rips us off every single paycheck, and then somehow we don't get a say really in, I mean, I guess technically you do with voting, and honestly there's like a lot of stuff in that regard. Like, I don't understand who makes what decisions when it comes to where tax dollars go, but I know that most citizens would prefer to keep those tax dollars in the United States and put them to use here. If you did that, I wouldn't hate the taxes as much. I do think that we need to give more back to our citizens and stop taxing us to death. Like, but I also do understand that taxation with representation can be beneficial for the society, but I think we just need to vastly decrease the amount of taxes that we do pay and get a much more comprehensive say in where that money goes. And so one of the points that you made in there was so you said we can't ask them HIPAA questions. So correct. And I do agree that we have to be very cautious of the rights that we have that are protected by the Constitution. So I agree with that. However, if you reinstituted mental health institutes, then most of those people wouldn't be going into gun stores to buy guns. You know what I mean? So agreed, basically agreed across the board, just some different thoughts and perspectives on that. But,
Sure.
And I also think we should add, so if you go back in time and you look, they used to teach firearm safety and education in the school systems. And when that was going on and mental health institutes were active, violent crime was a lot less. And it was so funny because somebody told me, well, that was before semi-automatic weapons. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I'm like, you used to be like back in the day, like Bonnie and Clyde time, you could go into a gun store and buy a freaking Tommy gun. Right, like right there, a BAR, a Browning automatic rifle. You could buy that shit at your local gun store, and all the ammunition, you could walk in and walk out of it. It's like, why weren't these things, maybe Bonnie and Clyde was a bad example, but at least Bonnie and Clyde weren't freaking going into schools and shooting them up. Like, I mean, what they were doing was terrible, but it was different. So I'm like, that argument is straight out the window. And it's just, why don't we, yes, do I think that we should go back to the way the 1950s were? No, there were terrible things in the 1950s. Racism was still rampant. There was segregation. Like, women weren't valued the same as they are today. No, but we can go back and take the good stuff and use the good stuff and learn from the bad stuff. But instead, we want to erase history completely, not learn from it at all, and just do the same shit over and over again, expecting different results.
Right. No, I agree.
It's freaking crazy. The world's crazy. I think my dad's going crazy.
Calm down, Haley. Let's make something up. Get into something that we know we're going to disagree on.
Why
don't we talk about Plymouth versus AMG?
Plymouth versus what's AMG?
I'm sorry, not AMG.
AMC.
AMC.
Well, AMG is a thing. American Motor Group, I think, was part of Mercedes, right?
It was, yeah.
So AMC versus Plymouth. You probably know way more about cars than I do, honestly. But I mean, wait. Let's do this. Well, I'll take the pro. I'm gonna take a pro pronoun stance for schools. Like, I think schools should be allowed to let elementary school children pick their pronouns, and they don't have to disclose that to their parents. So you're my kid, your kid goes to my school. I'm a teacher. Your kid tells me that, so this is a boy. So Justice is at school, and Justice comes to me as his teacher, and he's like, I feel like a girl. I want to be called she, her. And I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. We should do that. And I'm not obligated to tell you as the parent that Justice came to me and requested that. And I think that's a good idea because it promotes kids being themselves and making their own decisions, and it affirms who they feel that they truly are.
I am going to disagree with you, not for the sake of a good show, but I am truly going to disagree with you for a couple of reasons.
Well,
Number
you're a
one.
racist, so.
That I am not.
Did I pull the trigger too soon on the racist label?
Damn. I think you did, but
all right, I'll put that back in my pocket.
That's all right. I don't think that a child, and we're talking about children here, and we used my son who is 6 years old as an example. I don't think a 6-year-old has any idea truly about whether they were supposed to be a boy or a girl. for a couple reasons. Right now it's in the media everywhere. I said I wasn't going to talk about the vacation, but it was all over at Disney. They're shoving it down the throats of not only adults, but children as well.
Oh, we'll get into that more in another show when Randy's back.
We will. Absolutely. However, do I have a problem with adults who want to change their pronouns? No, I don't. The adult whose mind is completely developed now, they've lived a good portion of their life so far. They know how they feel. They know what they see when they look in the mirror. A child doesn't know this yet. I don't believe that a child should be able to say, hey, I feel like a girl today, so I want to be addressed as she and her. It's also going to make it very difficult for the teachers. It's already difficult for them. It would make things increasingly more difficult because now there is no structure. There are boys' bathrooms and there are girls' bathrooms. If we're talking about letting a 6-year-old now potentially say, my pronoun is she and her, now you have to let them use the girls' restroom because that's what they're identifying as and that's what you're addressing them as. I think it would be a potential to breed more sexual misconduct as they become adults. That's just a personal opinion. Maybe that wouldn't happen. I don't know. But to say that we should allow children in schools to choose that, I think is asinine. As a child, you're told to go to school, you go to school. It's been that way since, the early days when they started making one-room school buildings, right?
Yeah.
Back then, parents said, you're walking to school, they walk to school. They go to the class that they're supposed to be in when they're supposed to be in it. They eat lunch when they're supposed to. They go to recess when they're supposed to. They do whatever activities the teachers were telling them when they were supposed to. There's structure. If you take the structure out of the equation, it becomes a free-for-all, which is only going to increase issues within the educational system. And it's already apparent. We're already seeing that. So for the sake of the argument, I am going to strongly disagree with you.
So I understand what you're saying there, Brian. I hear you, and I disagree. I think here's why. So what about those kids out there that, we see suicide rates increasing drastically in young children and adults, teenagers, and I think that a lot of that is tied to the fact that they aren't comfortable being open about their gender, and that's causing them to commit suicide. So I think if it saves somebody's life just by me calling a boy she, her, or they, them, then I think we should promote their right as young people to do that.
I didn't think about that way. I mean, yeah, nobody wants to see loss of life, including myself. Whether I agree with this or not, yeah, that's. I didn't think of it in terms like that, and this is not a scripted thing. We are literally talking about this out of nowhere. And you really did just make a good point that I never thought of. I think that suicide in general, especially amongst veterans, is a huge ordeal. I think it's an even bigger deal for young children, young kids that are taking their own lives, some of which is related to that specific situation and some is not. But I think you are absolutely correct. And if it's just simply addressing them as a he or a she, okay, there's really not that much harm in it at this point, especially if we're going to save a life. So I can appreciate your stance on it and your point of view. That's not something I considered or thought of at all.
It's the school's job to do that too, Brian. It's not your job as a parent.
I will disagree with that. I think it is very much a parent's responsibility to pick up on those things. Granted, I'm sure there are plenty of parents that have, and unfortunately it wasn't in time or just wasn't, influential enough to save the child. But I do believe it starts at home. The parents have to be in tune with how their kids are feeling. If they notice something, they should definitely speak upon it with their child as openly as possible, no matter what their age is. If you have to break it down Barney style, I'm sure that whatever child you are talking to if it's within their capacity to understand it, it can be conveyed in a way that it will make sense to them, and hopefully start allowing children to have those conversations with adults and not be so afraid. I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself for the way I thought about it until you made that point. To lose a life of any age is just, it's traumatic. There are people that, their brothers, sisters, families, friends, and I didn't think about that at all. I know if I were in that situation, if justice did want that, I probably that would have been the last thing on my mind. Nope, you're a boy. I wouldn't have thought of that. I really am kind of disappointed in myself for.
Well, let me try to make you feel better. Let me try to make you feel better. All right. So for anybody who knows me out there, I'm 100% on Brian's side on this. I don't think that schools should be promoting that. I mean, I think at some high level, it probably should be addressed in health class. I could see an argument there, but if a kid goes up to a teacher and says those things, I think they should be immediately directed back to their parents and say, hey, this is school. Like, we don't, that's a conversation that you need to have with your mom and dad and talk it out. If they don't have a mom and dad, their legal guardian, whatever. If they don't have a legal guardian, send them to the guidance counselor. Like, let's take every action we possibly can to not put those teachers in those positions either. Like, there are probably a lot of teachers that don't want to have that conversation. Rightfully so. They shouldn't have to have that conversation. And then there's other teachers out there that are promoting those type of conversations. But ultimately, I agree with you, Brian. I think that conversation needs to happen at home, and it needs to come along with a lot of questions from genuine care, like from I want to understand why you feel that way. Because I mean, there were times when I was a little kid, I had female cousins and we played dress up, and Pretty Princess was a board game and shit like that. And it's like, I would pretend, joke around and be a girl and stuff. It didn't mean that I wanted to change my gender, but like you said, now that this is so widely discussed and pushed in the media and on TV and in Disney movies, I think a lot of kids are just confused. They're confused because they're kids and their brains haven't fully developed, and they don't understand their emotions and they don't understand their feelings because they're young and they're still figuring that stuff out. Now, again, like to your point, if you're an adult and you want to make those decisions, by all means, but don't force me to agree with you. If you don't agree with me on a bunch of stuff, why do I have to agree with you on things? It doesn't mean we can't coexist. It doesn't mean we can't be friends. But I'm friends with plenty of people that I don't agree with on a lot of things. And but we don't shove it down each other's throats. Like, I'm not sitting there and telling them, hey, you have to be pro Second Amendment and you have to do this and you have to do that. And they don't do that to me. We just have genuine conversations out of curiosity, and we learn from those conversations. And it's just this whole thing with, you have to respect my pronouns and blah, 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 blah. No, I don't technically have to do shit. I will if you respect me, but don't tell me I have to do that, because no, I don't. There's no rules. There's no laws. There's nothing saying that I have to. And even if there were, I still wouldn't, because they'd be fucking unconstitutional in my opinion and all that stuff. But I digress into lack of emotional intelligence and anger. No, but just so you know too, that came up on a social media post. So, and it was something that I hadn't thought about either. I had made the point that, and I still agree with my point, that children should not be having gender reaffirming surgery. If a kid can't get a tattoo, if they're too young to be able to operate a motor vehicle, if they can't basically, we don't trust kids to make good decisions. Rightfully so. They're kids. They haven't made mistakes yet. They haven't had life experience to make mistakes and learn from them. Why would we allow them to have a completely elective, life-changing surgery that people regret having. Like, I'm not saying all of them do, but there are many cases where people have those surgeries and they regret it, and it's painful, and hormone therapy sucks, and all of these things. Why would you let a child that doesn't have a fully developed brain and doesn't understand who they are yet do those things? But anyway,
or
my point with that,
haven't gone through puberty.
right? Yes, that's a huge one. Like, yes,
I mean,
puberty.
the body changes significantly for males
Body and the
and
mind.
females. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, so my point was, I had made that point on Instagram, and somebody said that, and they're like, well, what if that child was suicidal and this was the only way that they would, they thought that they could make it through it? I'm like, damn, shit, that's a good point. But
sure. And it's not going to be every case.
No, I think that would be a very rare exception to the rule. And okay, well then what actions can we take in the meantime? Like, that can't be the only resort as a child.
Right.
And how often is that happening? Yes, I'm sure it has happened, and I'm not dis or downplaying that, but what's the issue here? Like, let's have a lot of conversations first and try to figure this out. And okay, maybe if that's a last fucking resort, if my 12-year-old kid's like, I'm gonna fucking kill myself, dad, if I don't have kids, but if I had a 12-year-old and they were like, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't, like, if, and legit meant it, because kids say stupid crazy shit too, but
sure.
I don't know.
That's the thing.
I don't fucking know.
And that's the thing, like, you don't know for certain if that's a serious claim or not, and that's not something to be taken lightly. So you still have to address it as, such, if it came about.
Right.
But I keep thinking about how I thought about it. I still feel the same way.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I still feel like that there's not a place for that at that age. But of course, if it came down to it, yeah, there definitely needs to be something done, and it does need to start within the home. And like you said, if it's done at home, there's no guardian, then the school should take a stance on it somehow, whether it be via guidance counselors or if the teacher was comfortable in having it. We do need to look out for our children. That is a huge thing, from, pedophilia to human trafficking. All of those things need to be taken extremely seriously. And yeah.
I just want to know, like, what caused this? What caused this storm of teenage depression and suicide, and this rapid increase in people identifying as the other gender and everything? Like, where did this all come from? Like, was it being buried completely? I feel like, yes, there were plenty of people there. I'm sure a small percentage of people that didn't come out back in the day because they were afraid of the repercussions. I understand that, but I still don't think that equates to the huge increase that we've seen over the last decade or so.
I'll probably take a lot of flack for this, but I personally feel it's faddish. I hate to say it, I'm a single dude, and I got on a couple dating websites.
Mm-hmm.
I am so tired of hearing about how every woman loves to hike now. Every woman wants a dude with a beard. Every woman is into, their Frenchie, and it's so faddish.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't believe that every woman out there loves all that shit. Are they doing it because they want to be attractive like the other women think that they are?
They've been conditioned to it.
Well, that's just
they've been
it.
conditioned to that's what guys want.
Sure.
And that's what attractive guys have.
I can tell you this. I know very few dudes that want to hike all the time. I have a buddy, John. My buddy John, fantastic dude, loves to hike. That's great. That's his thing. And there are plenty of other dudes out there that may enjoy it. But this is to an extreme. Like, that's all they want to do. Hiking,
dude,
and
if you could pay me, if
paddleboarding.
I could make money, yeah, shit, I'll do that. If I can make a living doing it, all right.
My point was, I think that there is a movement, there are people out there that legitimately have felt this way, thought this for a really long time, and because other people are speaking out about it, it's given them the strength or the courage to do so themselves. But I also believe that there are people jumping on the bandwagon because how much attention it is getting.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, people crave attention. People, a lot of people, not all people, a lot of people like to be by themselves and not stir up the waters and just live their life peacefully and quietly. But then there are other people who desire that. They crave it. They didn't get the attention that they wanted as a younger child, maybe from their home life. And now they've been conditioned to be searching for that. And what better than something that is just swept across the nation? It is everywhere. You
And
walk into
it probably
Target.
gets a ton of views on social media too, which is, I mean, and we realize, like Brian just made some points there, and we're sitting here promoting a podcast and getting our message and worded out and all stuff like that. So I get the irony there, but I think like so many people live on dopamine now, and the more different you are, the more views you're going to get and the more dopamine hit you're going to get. So I think there's something there as well. Maybe again, not directly related to it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some tie to it.
I would agree. But I will say that
We're gonna get so canceled.
I will say that, it also has its negative reaction too. Being different, yes, you can get that dopamine dump and have that high. But like young people on social media, you might strive for that. You're making your post, and in the beginning, yes, it's getting the attention, you're getting the likes that you want, but then eventually, if it starts to die off, those dopamine levels drop.
Here comes depression.
Potentially falling into depression. So I think it goes both ways, but I think I think that it could be for some people that they got that initial high, they got that initial fuzzy feeling like, oh my gosh, people are paying attention to me, they're responding to my posts, and then it falls off. I think a lot of those, I would venture to guess that a lot of those people were the people that it was a fad thing for.
Yeah, well, and I agree
and the people
with you.
And the people that are legitimately experiencing those things and talking from the heart, if they're truly invested into it and that's how they feel, they're going to thrive no matter what. That is who they are, that is what they are, and they're going to continue living like that with ups and downs. But then they're going to be those people that just they falls off because they didn't get the desired reaction anymore. I think that you see in some cases, you've had the ex-Army Ranger. He came out and said, "This is the worst thing I've ever done. It changed my life completely. I thought that's what I wanted. It's nothing like what I thought." You've got a bunch of cases where people are having the reverse surgeries, if you will.
Yeah.
And they're literally speaking out about how it's not what they thought it was going to be. It was miserable throughout a lot of that, the medications and the help me out here, Kyle. Drawing a blank. The hormone therapies and stuff like that. Yeah, like I think people are excited because it's new and different and trending. That took over because of all the social media posts that they saw, and they saw these people standing up, and then next thing you know, boom, they're at an all-time low because it was not what they thought.
Yeah. That's a good thing. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. And I think two things come to mind with what you were saying there. So I think for a lot of people, so for me, up until, I kind of got on this personal growth and development journey, I lacked identity. I never felt like I knew who I was. And I think I could see that as a young person, lacking a sense of identity you could get very confused by that and say, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm not in the right body or something along those lines, you know? So I think lack of identity has something to do with it, and lack of community
Sure.
too. It's
Sure.
maybe you're feeling like a loner or you're left out and you just want a group to accept you. You're not getting accepted by anybody. Well, if I do this, I know that these people are going to take me in with opening, you know, welcoming arms. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'm a boy now, just so I could get a sense of welcome, well, you know, the community, that everything that comes with a label. If I label myself this, these people at least will accept me and I will feel like I'm part of something.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it's probably a bigger piece of that puzzle than we might think.
Yeah.
Acceptance is huge, you know. I would say that it's probably a very big driving force behind some of it, if not a lot of it.
Yeah, and what I would love to do at some point is get some people that are part of that community to come on the show and let's have an open
Absolutely.
conversation. Like, let's have an open conversation about it, and it's not to have, you know, it's not to attack each other. It's to learn from each other, and
Sure.
hopefully we can do that moving forward. I would love to get you know, people that disagreed, whatever it may be. Maybe it's not that, maybe it is the Second Amendment stuff, maybe it's what it, you know, toxic masculinity or something along those lines. But hey, bring us the social issue that you don't agree with us on, and let's hear your story and let's learn
Sure.
from each other, and maybe we can gain a better perspective on these things too.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at it kind of like culture.
Mm-hmm.
I've traveled the world, been to a lot of places, and I've always found it extremely interesting to see how other people lived. It's not that different from personal preference. It
Mm-hmm.
might not be my preference, it might not be how I live my life, but I am interested to know what it's like.
Right.
I don't know what Europe is like unless I go to Europe. And here
Europe.
I can read about it. But I don't truly know until I can experience it. So to have a conversation with
Yeah.
somebody that has those preferences and those feelings would probably, I mean, it kind of, and don't get me wrong, I have friends that are gay, and
Yeah.
I don't know that I have any friends that are trans, at least that I know of. But if I did, I would be interested to know. And I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to dog them or down them. It's not my thing, but I would be interested to know. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good idea. I think we
Yeah, we're
should.
definitely going to do that. And I have a friend that's going to come on from the Army here soon that I was just talking to today, and he is so he's black, and he is very sees through the bullshit of Black Lives Matter, and he has a very interesting perspective on how he embraces his culture and his community, but
Mhm.
he doesn't give in to the things that try to divide us as a country, if that makes sense. And he's just an awesome dude. He was one of my soldiers in the guard, and I'm not gonna put his name out there yet, but he agreed to come on here soon, and I'm very interested to have him come on because I think he can give us some insights into a different community.
Sure. I mean, I think it's extremely important in general because, to be quite frank, I don't know what it's like to grow up in a ghetto
Mm-hmm.
or in a project. I have no idea. Have I worked in a job that allowed me to see it firsthand? I did, but my thought process on it was not me putting myself in somebody else's shoes. It was me trying to figure out what the heck happened and why it happened. It had no bearing on how it even came about,
Right.
why it came about, what the disagreement truly started over. So yeah, I would be very interested in getting to talk to that young man and asking him questions because, again, I don't know what it's like to be black. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what it's like to be gay. I don't know what it's like to. There's a lot that we can learn from folks that are not quite like us. I don't want to say different
Yeah.
because we are all the same. We're all human
Yeah.
beings. We're all made up of the same
But
stuff.
we're all unique. We're all different
Yes.
in ways. Like at our core, we're the same. But I
Sure.
think there are many things that make each one of us us and make each one of us unique because of the communities that we're in. We're veterans. Other people aren't. You know, like we all have our own communities and those labels that come along with that. And I think labels have positive. That's a good one. We should do an episode on that as labels. But I think labels can be good or bad. It just depends on how they're used. But you could say that about a lot of things. So
we can do it on PTSD. I told you I was on some of those dating websites.
yeah,
Talk to a few women. Want to be honest about it. Yeah, I have a diagnosis of PTSD. Blah 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 blah. Why'd you get out of the military? Why'd you go to this? And then boom, they're done talking to me.
yeah.
It's that is a label that seemingly scares people.
Fuck, dude, that's a good. Yeah, we will definitely get into that. Write that down. Write labels down. No, I'm just kidding. I can write it down. But all right, so we've been talking for over an hour here, and I got to get this edited tomorrow because then I hit the road for Ohio home to see you and Randy in person. So super stoked for that. But what's one?
I would say we're excited for you to come back, but we're really not. But...
Oh, that's mean. That's rude.
No, I'm just kidding, man.
You know what? I don't give a shit what you say. Fuck you. I feel good about myself regardless.
I'm just telling you how I feel. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. No, we're pumped to have you back, man. But go ahead with that. What was your next thing?
Yeah, so what's one thing that you've been doing recently that's been super beneficial for you? Doesn't matter if it's mindset, if it's physical, just something that you've been getting a lot of positive impact out of in your life.
Ooh, I mean, it's not really out of the ordinary, but I've been complimenting myself more.
It's a good one.
I mean, it's super simple stuff, but after you write a list of shit to do, and after you check off everything on that list, that is a really good feeling. You've accomplished everything you set out to do. There are days where I'd finish stuff, but I'd be upset because I didn't get more done.
Mm-hmm.
So basically just more self-gratification, continuing to uplift myself like, hey, you're doing a fantastic job raising your voice. Good morals, good ethics. Just building yourself up, man. Investing in my product.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. We are definitely if you don't know what to invest in, start by investing in yourself. Like that's been a piece of advice, and I forget who said that to me. But it was a piece of advice that really stuck with me, and I've done a lot of that over this year, both time-wise, money-wise, and it's really truly starting to pay off recently. So I'm going to agree with you there. Invest in yourself. Like Brian has said many times before, we can't understate it. Invest in yourself through coaching, through reading, through podcasting, through networking, through surrounding yourself with the right people, by pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying new things. Like there are so many ways to invest in yourself that don't require any money at all. Right. That person that you are interested in learning from, reach out to them, send them a message on Instagram. Sometimes, you know what? They're going to see it and they're not going to respond, and that's okay. But that one time they are going to respond, and that one contact could change your life. So I love that.
Oh,
Brian.
Absolutely. What about you?
I stole yours, but I guess I can do mine too. So
yeah, I want to.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me lately is a mindset shift that I've taken. So I have shifted my mindset from scarcity to abundance. So, and this has the change in my stress level tremendously. So when I'm living in scarcity, I'm constantly worried. I'm stressed out about money, especially right now. New to entrepreneurship, left the W-2 job, and we're moving back home. We're going to have a mortgage payment again. We're going to have utilities, and our expenses are going to increase greatly because we've been intentionally saving money down here with Callie's mom for the last 4 months. We thank her so much for the opportunity to do that. But that was causing me a ton of stress. So I talked to my coach about it, and he's like, there are so many ways to make money. So first of all, stop freaking out. We talked through worst case scenarios, all of this stuff. And now, instead of focusing on basically what a scarcity mindset causes, is it causes desperation. You start acting out of desperation, and people can sense that. It's like, who's going to come coach with a guy that's acting out of desperation? Like, you don't want to work with a desperate salesman, right? So the same concept. Well, if I live in abundance and I realize that, hey, I'm never going to let myself get to that point, there are so many ways to make money out there. And really what I need to be doing is focus on being the best coach I possibly can be, and adding as much value to everybody, and knowing that that will then take care of itself from an abundance standpoint. The money will come, the security is going to come. Since I've done that, it's made me feel so much more confident, so much more calm, so much more relaxed, that I've been adding, I've been getting clients because I'm going into these calls so confident that I'm adding so much value that people are like, hey, this is an easy decision. I know that this is going to help me. The other thing too that we do is, if people are doubting what we do, is I always offer to set them up with current clients. Like, if you don't believe what I'm saying, like, hey, talk to our current clients and see what they're really going through and experiencing here before you make a decision. And I don't want to pressure anybody into doing that, because it's a huge investment in yourself, time wise, and again, money wise. So I get it, but it's just helped me approach what I'm doing with a lot more confidence, and I'm not dreading going home now because of it. Because I know, and I'm closing extra deals like all the time. Like today, I had a call with somebody I had never met before, and by the end of the call, he was interested in coaching and having me help him with his Facebook page. So it's like, hey, that's awesome.
It is. Absolutely. Cool.
All right, brother. Well, I think it's time for us to sign off.
It is, because it's getting dark out. I still don't have my laptop back yet, and I need to get in the house. Getting eaten alive by bugs.
All right. I hope you have a good rest of your night, man. We'll talk later.
All right, brother. You too, man. We'll talk.
Yep. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, if you liked what you heard today, please check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And don't forget to head to Eventbrite and grab one of the 10 tickets available for our monthly Ideal Connect call. Then, when you're ready to take the next step, message us on any of our social media pages to book a free coaching consultation call to see how we can help you start living your own ideal life. Thanks again for all of your love and support, and always remember, you have everything you need to achieve success. It's just a matter of believing.